Hello and welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. I have with me the amazing Dr. Anna Ospenskaya, and welcome. This is a great time to do another show together.
Thank you, Chris. This is indeed a great time as we are moving towards the springtime and exploring Beethoven's feelings and his expression of nature. This is just wonderful. And thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to be co-hosting this program.
Yes, this is wonderfully the seventh part of the documentary of Beethoven's Symphony No. 6, written and narrated by Lawrence Rapchak, created by New Media Productions worldwide and Virtual Concert Halls, and produced by the incredible architects of music.
Yes, indeed, incredible architects of music. And this collaboration is just a pure joy. It has been going on for over 2.5 years. We're still working on the finalizing 2 more symphonies. That's down the road. You'll see them all. And this is a really product of love and passion, which we all share in our journey bringing musicians and music from around the entire globe.
And when it hits, Beethoven adds 2 trombones to the orchestra, along with the first appearance of the trumpets and timpani. There were massive sustained chords in the winds and brass, which you heard, and dramatic descending arpeggio figures in the violins, which must qualify as the melody here. Big diminished 7th chords, and at the bottom of these columns of sound, the cello and bass are wildly rushing with this figure. The cello play groups of 5 notes, while an octave below, the basses play 4-note groups. Obviously, it's an orchestral effect. There's no way that this could be heard clearly. And the harmonic layout of the music, it's pretty basic, actually. You have F minor, our tonic key, E diminished 7th chord, A diminished 7th chord, moving to B flat minor, a lightning flash, then another lightning flash, arriving now in C major, which is the dominant key of F minor. And the raging storm in octaves by the full string section. And you see how effective those diminished 7th chords are in depicting the tempest. Then there's more shuddering strings. The violins and violas play tremolo like so. And the cello and bass continue to evoke the ominous rumble of thunder underneath. And you heard those multiple lightning strikes using this progression. F sharp diminished 7th, moving to B flat minor, and G7, and C minor, and C7, and moving to A major. Now there's an episode with the raindrop figuration in the first violins over a C sharp diminished 7th chord. Then there's more tremors in the cello and bass, and this rhythmic figure in the woodwinds. And the raindrop 8th notes in the violins. And miles below, the cello and bass are rumbling. You heard sheets of rain there cascading in the violin arpeggios. And now a return of the big octave theme. 3 times, leading to a fabulous depiction through simple chromatic scales of gale force winds sweeping across the landscape. The high point of the drama. Plenty of diminished seventh harmonies and cascading tremolo violins again. All of this superbly structured, phrase by phrase, by Beethoven. And as the storm dies away, we hear what I think is the single most stunning passage in the entire symphony. Beethoven's total mastery is so obvious here. The boom of thunder is gradually fading, just strings and timpani, that's all, on simple dominant and diminished seventh chords. And just the double bass is rumbling way below. And one last flicker of lightning, leading to the appearance of the sun, and a simple hymn in C major. And on this chord of the hymn, this is amazing. On that chord, the cello and basses, still with very fleeting 16th notes, far below the hymn voices, create one final non-rhythmic random rumbling of thunder moving out of the area, as they say, and giving way to the sunlight. I think it's the greatest moment in this work. And we move directly into the finale. And I know it's a very unfair comparison, and I have a great fondness for music of the early classical era that we've heard throughout this series. Thomas Arne and William Boyce, and Gosse and Herschel and whatnot. But Justin Heinrich Knecht's Pastoral Nature Symphony makes clear just how towering is the creative power of Beethoven's music. It's likely that Beethoven patterned his Sixth Symphony's programmatic layout on Knecht's work, whose fourth movement title mentions, "The storm recedes little by little, the clouds dissipate." Here is that passage in Knecht's symphony. And here again is Beethoven's storm receding into the distance, the appearance of the sun, and those astounding faint rumbles of thunder in the cello and bass, written only 20 years after Knecht's symphony. and with the frequency of storm music in the orchestral and operatic repertoire, Beethoven's accomplishment, with very limited forces but an overflow of genius, has never been equaled in its marriage of bold, visionary sound, its unerring dramatic instinct, with the sheer quality of the music itself.
Well, there you have it. That's the fourth movement, and just what a way to transition. And I love, like, once again, this comparison between Beethoven's predecessor next and his partial symphony, and the kind of skeleton that Beethoven took, but then transformed into something that's just remarkable.
Well, absolutely. Well, Knecht Symphony is remarkable too, and every absolutely phenomenal accomplishment. And Beethoven's symphony is more like a conclusion to the development of the air for that style of a symphonic composition. There's always a predecessor and a great one. When Larry put next to each other the two transitional moments in the symphonies, which are, they have the basic similar composition, similar ideas, similar purpose in writing. They're not that different, yet there is a humongous difference in effectiveness, don't you think, between what Knecht wrote, and again, it's so much more predictable, and therefore it's so much more like just your usual everyday experience of great music. His music is great. Knecht's music
I
is great.
wonder if
But
it has something to do with I mean, of course, you can call it gifted, talented, and that is also very true of Beethoven. But you wouldn't dismiss that of Next either. He was probably quite an inspired and a wonderful
absolutely.
musician. But
And
what is it
Beethoven
that you
wouldn't have
think?
chosen a bad example to model his symphony.
Yes, exactly. But what is it that makes Beethoven Beethoven? And I propose, perhaps, that it was this lack of regard, perhaps, of what people thought of his music. Like, he wasn't out to please people with what they've heard before by other composers of the time or before.
He
What do
definitely
you think
was
of...
not a conformist. That's for
Yes.
sure. And his purpose of writing music was definitely to engage, to impress, and to shake to the core every person in the audience. And
Yeah.
I believe it was for him to be impressed with his own composition. First and foremost, he was his own strictest judge and his own biggest motivator. So for his imagination, it was just that much bigger and that much more varied and that much more on edge emotionally, the experience with music, than for many others around him and before him and after him. Beethoven is a drama composer. He is what we would probably call today the composer of the epic music. And that means everything is expanded to the maximum or beyond. And when you do that, you have to step outside the norms and the boxes. I don't think I could say on behalf of Beethoven that he didn't care that people like his music. He probably did.
It's a question. It's a question of, what do you prioritize, right? What do you because, I mean, as an interpreter of music, it's a little bit different to someone who creates and composes music, because, right, as a composer or even as a writer, you are really putting your whole heart and soul and brain and everything you've absorbed onto paper to create something that is hopefully unique.
Well, even with the performance, it's the same thing. It's a journey, inward directed journey, and to expressing oneself, one's artistic desires to the highest level of precision, and balancing that with expectations.
Yes.
And the expectations of the audience, whether that's your peers, colleagues who might be in charge of your development of the career, for example, or if it's general audience, and again in charge of your career, because if your general audience doesn't leave the concert excited to come back for another concert, you're doomed as a performer just as badly as a composer, right? And so it's
So
the same.
what is it though
Yeah.
that I'm just doing this for the sake of our discussion and our debate, but so we also in the video discussed and looked at a variety of techniques that Beethoven used, right? We have these groups of five against the groups of four, which represents this sort of wilderness, the whirling tempest and rumbling of thunder against diminished chords, right? These
Absolutely,
are
and I want to point out that part is one of really pretty revolutionary things to do when you put the lower strings together, and one group is playing quintuplets, groups of five, and the other one is doing, groups of four against each other. It's composed in a way to make sure that it's not going to be clearly heard, and that's what Larry Rapchak immediately pointed out.
Right.
With the purpose. So Beethoven, of course, ran into, I'm sure he ran into expecting and getting pretty sharp feedback from musicians who were reading the symphony and say, "What the heck did you write in here? That's unplayable. That's unheard." Five against
five?
four.
Yeah. Yes,
we
but
can't
also,
play it and people can't hear it.
So, and then what else? He does incredible things. He does he portrays the lightning strikes, right? And how does he do that? We've seen, and Larry talks about in the video, the lightning strikes with chord progressions, and they ascend. So he's using musical techniques not only to represent the groups of five and groups of four to get the rumbling of the storm and that, but he's also he's portraying lightning. Then there's these amazing techniques he uses where he uses raindrop eighth notes against the rumbling of the cello and the basses in the background, and you have another technique.
And that's another layer of polyrhythmia, which he puts in here in the vertical of the symphony. You have quintuplets, five groups for each beat, and then quadruplets in the basses, and then on top of it you have eighth notes going down as a raindrops in there. So you get five against four against two, and then it just keeps piling up, and of course
and then you have then also like he uses chromatic scales, and this is really cool because Larry talks about how he uses chromatic scales for the galing winds. And so again, what is really cool is there's almost a specific musical device or combination of musical devices to portray something that's in the in nature that you hear. And the best part, obviously, when we can talk more about this, is this, as the storm dies away, this singular most stunning part which Larry loves and describes is like a hymn-like chorale with the sun appearing out of nowhere. So what I love about that is it's really clear that now C major, this chorale in C major, is the appearance of the sun, and it's so wonderful and beautiful. And my question now is to you, do you think this is unique to Beethoven, that he has this and he's able to use musical devices? Or do you think that there's just some way in which Beethoven is able to combine it all, sort of put all this as, architecture-wise, put it all into different layers and to make it a story that's very convincing?
Yeah, absolutely. And he adds also the instruments which show up in particular parts and all that. I mean, that's an eternal question, and it's $1 million question, Chris. Is talent a unique inspiration which just happens to people all of a sudden out of nowhere, or is it a combination of life experiences, factors, attitudes, work, and all of that? And I think it's both in a way.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I think talent is just a predisposition, and I usually like to describe talent as a desire. Okay, and some people just have a more desire to dig deeper and go wider and higher, and just to push through more, search and try and error, and just grinding through the process. Okay.
Yeah.
And some people put themselves more into that process, both in terms of how much they do it and with how much intensity they do it. And Beethoven is one of them. There are paintings of how his room looked like with all the people around. How often do you walk into someone's room and it's just covered with this much search for that one way to present a storm and a symphony, which is going to really speak to his own sense of being representative of what he wants it to sound like. It's a matter of that. So is that a talent, or is it a hard work, or is it curiosity?
I want to dive into that. I want to dive into that. I totally agree with you. I think the word that comes to mind, especially with desire, is also the will. When you watch really incredible biopics of great people, whether it's musicians or otherwise, you see that there's this incredible will and desire to build something, to be to no matter what, to portray something. And I think in this comparison that I'm making with next work, which I'm not dismissing as anything small or not monumental, because it was that model that Beethoven used. But what's really, really special, I think of, and that, which is why Beethoven, I think it continues to inspire so much of us, is because you see the will to drive something forward all the time. It's never enough for him. It's never quite satisfying enough. So he chooses to put 5 against 4. He chooses to use everything he can think of to portray the storm as well as he could with the means that he had. And this pushing of the boundary, this will to not compromise. And we talked about this before, this premiere was in conjunction with the 5th Symphony, with the 4th Piano Concerto, the Choral Fantasy, among like an improvisational work, amongst many other things.
Beethoven was maximalist, that's for sure. And
Yes.
if he took something on, he took it all the way and then some.
Yes.
that we can tell for sure. Yeah, and of course it's represented here, and how much variety he brings into this, and intensity, of course, the intensity of every step through. That's what keeps you so captivated in his realm.
Well, for sure. And I think this is what's inspiring about you and the team and everyone who works at virtual concert halls and sound perceiver, progressive musician, is this constant will as well and desire to have things. And we have an incredible season up ahead. And it's thanks to you and people like you who are just not compromising and saying, yes, we're going to just do it all. And it's going to happen no matter what. It's
happening.
It's this carrying on inheritance, perhaps, of a will to do something great, to really build something great. And with that, I want to give a big hand to our team and our collaborators, New Media Productions, Virtual Concert Halls, Architects of Music, and of course, Larry Rapchak himself, who compromised nothing in order to bring us the best content about this symphony, movement by movement, section by section, with historical context that I couldn't even imagine possible.
Yes, many thanks to Larry Rapchak and everyone involved in those films and in all of the productions which you see on our daily broadcasts. We have Music and Musicians daily broadcasts, and we have a whole variety of events, and upcoming events are quite exciting. It's going to be a marathon call orchestra auditions Olympics with musicians from around the entire world, and then more auditions, events, festivals and competitions, you name it. We're like Beethoven. We pack a concert with 5 hours of great music, like a buffet. You don't want one piece. You just wait a little bit. You'll get something different.
Your plate's full of everything that you can fit
full and overflowing. That's right.
Yes.
And we want to thank the sponsors, our supporters and collaborators for your incredible ongoing support of all these programs, for adding your talent, your resources, your time, your passion to what we do in here too.
Yes, amazing. And if you want to get involved with us, these are the websites you've seen on the bottom there. Please check out our Musicians and Musicians Daily Live Show. If you want to join us, please let us know. We have incredible amounts of different auditions and applications for an upcoming great season where one can have the opportunity to play with amazing orchestras around the world, as well as perform in Carnegie Hall. What a fantastic treat we have of a season. And with that, we will see you all for part 8 of our Beethoven 6 documentary series. Thank you once again, Anna, for joining me today and having this incredible discussion about what greatness really is and why Beethoven is great.
Yes, and let's all be like Beethoven, or at least get a bug of striving towards that. Thank you, Chris, very much. What a pleasure to be co-hosting with you. And I hope you all join us again for the next part 7.
Yes. See you all. Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Expressiva Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists, like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.